3, 2, 1, and we're live. All right, man. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Village Made podcast. Today we have my friend here. I'm just so happy and so interested in hearing his story and also being able to share his story. But Austin Childs. Again, thank you. I appreciate having extended the invitation and you accepting, and so it's an honor and it's a pleasure.
No, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it. It's
gonna
be fun.
Let's just get into it. For I guess initially, this is a kind of cool story.
Yeah.
In that it's not the traditional Polynesian story.
Right. No,
and
it's not.
We can already begin with your name, Austin Childs. But before that, where were you born and raised, and kind of like in being raised?
Yeah.
Talking about like how you were, I guess just you can explain it better than I do.
No, so. Definitely. No, and I consider my birthplace here in Orm.
Okay.
Because that's what I remember, right? So I was born in Fiji and adopted. My parents came across through the church and they adopted me when I was 3 months old. So from 3 months old on, that's all I know is the Palangi life, right? About 3 to 12 when I started hanging out with Polys. And so, that's kind of where I was born and raised. So raised in Orem, Utah, pretty much a lot of Polys there, but at the same time, it was a Palangi lifestyle. Right. So yeah.
So I mean, I guess you just touched on it. So what was childhood like for you, and at what point? I guess for your parents, did they tell you that you were, or did they like mention when you were younger, or when you got a little bit older that you were adopted, or how did that conversation come about for you?
Yeah, so pretty much since from when I can remember, I was always told I was adopted. I was told that, they're my adopted parents. And so never kept a secret or anything like that. So that was, comforting growing up. But, when you're young, you don't really understand it. But then really when I grew up hanging out with Palangi friends, I had one Tongan friend that I was always with, but it was about 7th grade, 8th grade when football really starts to kick in. You get around Polys, and so you start seeing like, oh man, like what the Palangis do compared to what the Polys do on their spare time. I'm like, that's me, right? So I gotta go. So I kind of gravitated towards them, but it was all new to me. But it just felt so right at the age of 12 to 14. It felt right. And so that's kind of how my parents noticed too. My parents noticed that I wasn't as, I was more relaxed, but I felt like more in my zone, right? With the Palangi friends, it was like we had a to-do list of everything we wanted to do, and it was go, 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 go. And then, but it's good I'm happy for that because it's helped me in business. But then the Poly friends, it was more of like, hey, let's just chill and we'll figure out what we're going to do on the way there. And so, that was definitely more my personality. And so now as an adult, able to take both aspects, the go, go, go. Yeah. And then also know when to relax and know how to have fun. Yeah, it's been nice.
Dang, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And so did you ever feel maybe like did you play football?
Yeah, so I played football out here back then. It started in 7th grade. So I played like 3 years of flag football, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And then 7th grade tackle football started. And so, football always been a vehicle, right? Like that was just like naturally, I really loved basketball, but it was like everybody was pushing me towards football.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for, just as a perspective, how was that? Like, I guess the Palangi perspective.
Yeah.
And then hanging out with your Polynesian friends. And then when you were with your Polynesian friends, and then like, were you able to see the different perspectives, I guess?
Oh yeah, very
and
different.
Can you talk about that? Like what
very very different perspective because especially with football, right? Because obviously there's more God-given talent with Polys, and so it was just it was very different. But then at the same time, like football brings everybody together, so it wasn't too different though. That part, I guess it wasn't too different now that I think about it. Yeah.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I guess when that point came where your parents told you that you were adopted, just from, I don't have any personal experience with that, but I have a friend that he has an adopted son.
Okay.
And so for him, he was just explaining to me or telling me that when he told his son, he kind of rebelled because he thought everything was a lie. And so maybe, I don't know, what kind of experience was that? Was that like, did that affect you at all?
No, not for me.
You were told?
No, luckily my parents told me at a young age, very young. And so I just kind of always knew, like they showed me pictures. And so I just always knew I was from the island. This is where my heritage is from, but this is where, but they never told me, but this is where you are. You know what I mean? They just kind of introduced it as, it was an opportunity. It was a blessing. Most kids grow up with one parent, one mom, one dad. I have 2 moms, 2 dads, right? It's just, so it's kind of cool how they introduced it. I never had any rebellion against, never had it. Never felt that way. Yeah.
That's cool. And then I guess there's pros and cons, right? Of saying, I mean, never mind. I don't know anything about that.
There is. No, but I'm glad you brought that up. So there are pros and cons, because I mean, there's a lot of pros growing up, like with that perspective. You know what I mean? Like knowing that you have different set of parents, but also it's a pro for me, because I mean, think about everything going on in this world right now. I grew up knowing the exact opposite. 2 total strangers brought me into their home. Color was never an issue in our house. Never has been in my life, period. I remember even growing up that a couple of poly friends I had, they would bring up like, oh, that kid's racist. I wouldn't see it, right? I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't see it. And so, but it's because, my Palangi parents brought me in and treated me like their own. All of my aunts and uncles were Palangi, so I didn't see color growing up, especially with what's going on. Today, I say the biggest con would be the teenage years, when it came to the reality of I'm poly, you're Palangi, right? After meeting more with football, after meeting more poly friends, I started to be really relaxed about things. And my parents, they wanted structure. They wanted me to have a plan with everything. And the poly friends I had, we were just all about, hanging out, having fun. And we knew we had a plan, but our plan was football, right? Like as long as we can be a starter on the football field, like we're going to go NFL, the typical poly dream. And so we didn't have like a set schedule, because of the God-given talent we were given. Physically, we didn't have to hit the weight room quite as hard. Didn't have to hit the field quite as hard. We could still have fun. And so, we were like, no, let's enjoy our teenage years. And it was probably harder for my parents to accept that I was becoming more like a poly, when it came to just being more, relaxed about life. It was a, happy life, rather than like a, write a to-do list every morning and make sure you do it. It wasn't really my style, but I'm glad I got it because it's helped me. But definitely teenage years weren't that fun for my parents, especially.
And then I guess speaking on your parents, can you mention just like a little bit of what, like the structure that you're talking about, that they wanted you to have a structure?
Yeah.
Can you mention like, just, did they want you to have a plan like with college, or did they already like want college for you? Was education an important thing to them? And
definitely, they wanted college. They wanted after school programs. Like they wanted they always gave me the option, but they always pushed as many sports as they possibly could. And so they really just wanted me to be more active. They didn't really like seeing me hang out in the home playing video games, or they didn't really like how I would just start eating everything and just eat for no reason. To this day, they still, like, if you show up early for, like, if you're hungry, you wait till 6:30 to eat. Like, it doesn't matter if it's 4 o'clock and you're hungry. Like, you at their house, you wait till 6:30. Right. So it's funny. They're just very structured people. And I was more of like, if I'm hungry, I'll eat. If I'm tired, I'll sleep. If I'm, that was more me. And but that's the common ground that I found with the polys, is we were just kind of like, we go as we go. Yeah. Right.
And then I know that you mentioned when sports was introduced to you, playing football, and that one for you wanting to be the way that you get out, or that you go to college, or and then get to the NFL. Yeah. And with that, at what point did you realize, I guess, or did it unfold to you that maybe that's not the route to go? Or that that dream wasn't happening, and how did you go about? Was that a difficult time for you?
It was. No, it was, because football is all I knew. Right. As
Polynesians, right?
That's Polynesians, that's all
dream. Where that's how you get out.
And it was always like my I go back and forth. So I would, through my early 20s, so I was married twice.
Okay.
So through my early 20s, my first marriage, and then into my second marriage, football was always like when times got tough, I was like, you know what? Forget everything. I'm gonna go play football. And it's crazy because it got to the level of I was trying to get on with the Kansas City Chiefs, and when we lived out in Kansas City, and so like that's when I realized I'm like, okay, like I'm nowhere near the level I need to be, and so so that's when I really started making the transition into I had to find something else, because I knew work wasn't for me. Now I did love providing, I loved putting in overtime, I loved the grind of it.
Yeah.
But when it came to being at peace with myself, I knew there was something else out there. I knew there was something more, and so then I started turning to more mental things, like what can I do to save my body and use my mind to make us some money. And so yeah.
Dang, that's cool that just you speaking on that transition, you know, from football, like life is all about football.
Yeah.
And then at some point when that didn't, quite unfold, then you had to like switch gears.
Yeah.
And then now turn to be the provider, with a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But I guess you mentioned that 9 to 5. Have you always known that 9 to 5 wasn't what you were about? Or?
Well, yeah, I think I did. I think I've always, every job I've had, I've found a way to make it so I could be just as valuable instead of in 8 hours. If I could be just as valuable in 4,
right.
And then I would abuse the supervisor, but hey, you got to let me, I'm like, I got to go. But I would know the way to work it, right? Like I would be like, hey, I got to go, but everything's done.
Right.
And so he couldn't really, I'm like, you can't really get mad. That did, obviously, the jobs with the more strict attendance policies, but I was able to really get through some jobs with strict attendance policies by creating little tricks,
right.
To get past it. So I knew a 9 to 5 wasn't my option. Yeah. Our family would fail if it was. It just wasn't in me.
Right.
And I knew success is something success meaning freedom.
Right.
Right. So the financial freedom was something I always craved. And so, yeah.
That's cool that, I was just about to ask,
Yeah.
but you already touched on it, like what success means to you, which
Yeah.
you just mentioned is the financial freedom.
Yeah.
But I guess before getting into what you're doing now and today, what were some of the jobs that you had to go through that you'd be like, nah, I don't want to do this, or, like part of, finding who you are today?
Yeah, definitely.
Or have you always known that you wanted to get into the industry that you're in today?
No. Software was probably the last thing I thought I was going to
Right.
get into. Yeah, it was by far the farthest thing away from my mind. I went through, it was a lot of jobs like typical entry-level jobs. So a lot of call centers, a lot of mentoring, coaching. So I coached high school football, and then I did the peer stuff for the Provo Canyon. I worked at the girls' campus, the boys' unit. It was a young boys' unit.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And so I worked there. And then when I lived in St. George in California, I did similar work, like warehouse work, just things like that. And so I didn't really have anything in mind going through all that. I just knew it wasn't the final destination. Yeah.
And so I guess just through the process of elimination, would you say you started a job like, nah, I don't want to do that. So you moved on to the next, and you're like, oh, kind of not. No, I don't want to do that.
I think I would have until I hit the point probably in my mid-20s where I said I have to be committed to learning. And that's the biggest thing, is when I committed myself to learning without going back to school. I wasn't going back to school.
Right.
But committed myself to learning. That's what really intrigued me. And that's how I kind of got into business. YouTube obviously is a huge platform to get into stuff. Facebook, Google, just, and that's when my mind really started to be like, oh man, there's people out here making money doing anything.
Right.
And so that's when it clicked, and I'm like, okay, business is where I want to go. But in the beginning, business is the way I wanted to go, but it wasn't for the right reasons. It was for money.
Right.
Right. And money isn't happiness. Like financial freedom is happy. You're happy, but it's not happiness. Yeah.
Man, can you talk on that, or can you expand on I guess just for us, a lot of us, looking at these So this is just from my perspective,
Yeah.
looking at the superstars, you know, or like
Yeah.
the A-listers who have the money,
Yeah.
but they also have problems at the same time. You know, you don't know, like,
Oh yeah.
you know, behind the scenes, they're like divorced, you know,
Yeah.
not that that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, they have like other issues.
Mhm.
Whereas you think because they have that money, you know what I mean? They're like, they've been caught up in different
Yeah.
scandals or whatever is going on behind the scenes. But you would think someone with money would be happy, or
Yeah.
like their lives would be perfect, you
Yeah.
know? But with what you mentioned, you know, that it
Yeah,
really isn't,
no, it's
you know.
not.
So
It's not at
can
all.
you kind of expand on that or talk about?
Yeah. So all money is, to me, this is just my opinion. I don't want to offend
And
anybody.
this is your definition of
Yeah.
success, or
Yeah.
your definition of money.
Yeah.
right?
So my definition of money, it's a tool, right? So if I need to unscrew something, I'm going to grab a screwdriver and unscrew it. If I need to buy something, I'm going to grab some money and I'm going to buy it. That's all it needs to be looked at. People put such a stress on money, like, oh, we have to, you know, like we have to save or we can't spend. They put so much limits on themselves. Because of a simple tool. I feel like people value money as too much.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong, nice cars, it's all gonna make you happy, but it doesn't bring you happiness, right? So joy and happiness are two different things.
Awesome.
So it's joyful when you get the new truck. Like I remember the first truck I got, like, oh, I was very joyful. But now realize, like, then coming to the reality of like,
never
oh,
brought
it's
you
expensive. Like, oh, I have to, you know, more gas money. I can't drive. You know what I mean? Little things like that. You come to the realization, like, the joy leaves quick. And so money can't buy happiness. People say it all the time. And I used to say it all the time too. Like, oh, money can't buy happiness. I think that was an excuse for me being broke, like trying to make sure my wife didn't leave me. Like, hey, babe, money's not happiness. And so that's but now I kind of have a better understanding that it really isn't. Happiness is whatever you make it. If you choose to make it money, it will, but money is literally never ending. Like, you'll always have it's a recycled happiness. Better to find happiness in something that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Dang, that's crazy. I mean, thanks for that perspective.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kinda
Different.
cool.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
little different, but
And so, I know you mentioned you committed yourself to learning. So after committing yourself to learning and not too much on the education, you know, like the value of an education,
Yeah.
where is like a 4-year degree
Mhm.
or whatever, you know, you need to go to school for.
yeah.
What job, I guess, or what was your next move, like in your career that, you know, with after wanting to be like a learner, a self-learner, you know,
Mhm.
did that kind of guide you into where you are today? Or?
It guided me into a lot of YouTube watching.
Okay.
And
And
so
that's your learning, or that's
yeah,
how you,
well, no, what happened with me is I spent a lot of time planning and I had no execution, right? And so it started the path of when it comes to the difference of planning and actual action.
Right.
And so it was a long year of oh, I'm gonna do this, and then no, I'm gonna do this. It's the same thing as jobs, right? I was bouncing around. Oh, I'm gonna be a marketer, and oh no, I'm gonna start a podcast, or I'm gonna do, like, I was doing, like, you know, because it's just kind of it's exciting to learn something new, but then as you take in new information, like, I think I spent more time thinking of what I was gonna do more than saying, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I need to do. So yeah, that's kind of when I committed myself, it was kind of a fail at first because it wasn't instant action. It wasn't instant success. It was more of, I kind of just enjoyed watching other people's success, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So what kept the drive for you, you know, because you said that it was like a fail at first.
Yeah.
But what kind of kept you going, like, you know what, let me go one more time, or
Yeah.
instead of, you know, just like, nah, let's go back to square one, or let me just go back to a regular job, or, you know, like going back to something that you would, you know, that I guess for you would just be a normal, or, you know, instead of wanting to continue to pursue your dreams or pursue whatever it was that you were learning about.
Yeah. It was obviously being a father and a husband. Okay.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So being those two things will change your perspective real quick. Now I was fortunate enough that as I was going, thanks to football, when I was attempting football, I knew it was important for me to keep a job. And so I'd be doing football after job, taking little breaks, right, headed over. And so throughout my business venture, the beginning, the fail year, right, I was able to keep a job. And so I knew I had the work ethic to make stuff happen. Because with the job I was at, I moved up pretty quick, but it was nice. So I had to put the two together. I had to say, okay, you're learning all these new things and it's helping you advance in your career. But do you want to have a career, or do you want to be, self-made?
Right.
And so I don't remember a particular moment, but it was about the age 28, which was, I'm 30 now. So about 2 years ago, it finally clicked that I have to make this happen. I have to take my work ethic and then all the information I've learned, and I have to put it together and make that jump to do what I want to do.
Leap of faith, right?
Yeah.
And so in taking that leap of faith,
yeah,
how long did it, I guess, was it 2 years? You said that you're 30
about
now?
2 years, yeah.
Did it took for you to like go through the whole process for you to, I mean,
Well, the jump, it was nice because the fail year, I think that's the most important year. The more you can take away, and it doesn't have to be a fail year. It just has to be, when you try something new, right? Anything you try, you're going to fall a lot. And so the quicker you can get past that, but the more you can take from it, the more successful you're going to be, I think.
That's awesome.
And so it was really the failure that kind of boosted once I really knew what I was doing. So I was actually working for a company right down the street, actually, and came up with this system.
Yeah.
Because I was, polys, we're all about hospitality, right? We're all about making sure everybody's treated fair. And I think as I moved up in a management position, I was known for that. People were coming to me like, hey, customer's really mad. Can you calm him down? Or, hey, boss is really mad. Can you go in his office and calm him down? And so it's like, we're the calmer, we're the cooler, right? Yep. And so I was like, man, if I could create, but again, going back to my work ethic, I always found a shortcut to get out of work. As long as I got paid, that's all that mattered to me. And so I came up with I was talking to a guy and he was like, man, I was like, man, what's a way I could take what I know and what I do and put it everywhere? And I wasn't even thinking about money. I was thinking about me leaving early. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, me just being able to leave early from work. And he's like, oh, create a software. And so take everything you know, put it in a software, and then let the software do the work for you. And he's like, and you'll get a ton of money for it. And so then it started to, like, money, hearing that, hearing something that I didn't have. Because whenever you hear about something you don't have, it's always going to, get you going. And so hearing, oh, wait, I can do it, and I can leave work early, and I can make money doing it, So that's really where it kind of clicked. Like, software was the way I wanted to go. And that's when I was able to be more mature about the decision and be like, hey, I know nothing about software, but if I can create something. And so that started a whole different venture of where I'm at now, is with the software. But that's where it started. I guess me trying to leave work early. That's yeah. So, yeah.
Which I think is kind of cool, that you found there was a problem and you found a way to, to solve that problem. Yeah. Which also, helped resolve your own, And it just kind of like,
I just didn't want to be there, right? Like, I didn't want to be the person to go through. I wanted to find something that could do it. And so, and if you've ever worked at a call center, I don't know if you have, but there's so many problems. Politics, there's so many different problems with customer service. And so it was a huge platform for me I can go any direction and find something to fix. And so that's why I chose the software to help all levels of, employees, managers, CEOs, down to the customer. I guess up to the customer. Customer is the most important. Yeah.
So speaking of this software that you created, and how long was that process, I guess, for you to create that software? Yeah. And like, was it a long process?
It was a long process. It felt longer than it was. It was maybe less than a calendar year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it felt like forever. Yeah. So I created this system. It was on an Excel sheet. I created it. I've always loved numbers, so I did that with numbers. I created an Excel sheet. And I showed it to my boss at the time, the CEO of the company. Showed it to him and said, hey, if I could do this for the company, is that something you'd like? And he's like, oh, yeah. He looked at it. And so I had him do a little demo. And he was like, that's really cool. And I'm like, thanks. He's like, yeah. And so I was like, okay, what do I get for it? And he's like, well, nothing. He's like, thanks.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was more of like, you're my employee already.
Right.
Thanks for coming up with this idea to make it easier.
How did you feel, or how did that make you feel?
I quit the next day. So I quit, lived off of whatever I had, right? The savings. And then, yeah, it was, I quit. I'm like, I know this idea will work. The CEO that I worked for, he's not a very easy guy to sell. And so I'm like, I know if I can get him to like it, I can get other people to like it. And so that's when the leap happened, right? When I made that leap, that was when so it was, that's kind of when it happened. And then it took about a year. So I had to go through finding the right partners. Finding the right partners was something that...
was that an easy process?
No, it was for me.
Okay.
I had an old attorney friend. He's all, I hate guessing his age. I need to ask him how old he is, but yeah, still my partner, man. Right. Me and him are really close. Let's just say 40 to be safe. Cool. Older guy. He's owned his own law firm before. And so I pitched him and I said, hey, this is my idea. And in my mind, from the knowledge I learned, legal fees are really expensive. And I'm like, if I could take away all my legal fees, because I'm partnered with the lawyer, and he'll just do it for free because he wants to see money come from it. And me and him vibed really well. He grew up around rugby. He's big into like UFC fighting. And so we just had a lot of common similarities with athletics. And so partnered with him, and then he loved the idea. And so we both put a little bit of money into it. And then before you know it, some of his friends were coming to us because they asked him, like, what are you into? They always talk, and this is something I learned too, that the successful people in the world, they share everything they have. They're not greedy with it. They share everything they have. It's like an open conversation at the dinner table that, hey, I'm working on this and we think it's going to do this. What can you help out? And before you know it, we were having a ton of money thrown at us because people wanted to jump on this idea. And it was thanks to him, right? I'm majority owner, but really he deserves majority ownership. He literally, if it wasn't for him, I don't know what my path would have been. I probably would have been back in a 9-to-5. And so he really helped me through that. All of his friends that jumped on, family that jumped on. And then seeing how families of money, because you hear the horror stories, right?
Right.
You hear the horror stories of
going into business with family.
Yeah, the families, they don't like each other. Money, greed, right? All of it. Everybody, they're happy when the parents pass away because they inherit all the money. Seeing it in real life, I think it's more of, I felt like it was a family where everybody, because it was kind of cool, the family he comes from, everybody, and this is my first experience, right? Seeing a family full of millionaires. And so it like millionaires, like they have 3 million in the bank and then they make $1 million. Yeah. And so seeing that firsthand for the first time, what I thought it would be, they're probably the cheapest people I've ever met in my life. They're complaining about how much money they paid for their dinner. And then they were so open with each other, and I felt like none of them wore, like there was respect, mutual respect in the room, but it wasn't like I have to respect this person because he's older than me.
Right.
And the oldest person didn't expect it from everybody else. Everybody was valued. Every opinion was valued equally. And I saw it and I'm like, man, that's what I want for my team. Like I want my kids, when I'm gone, I want my kids to be able to sit down, and they obviously know who's the oldest, but I want to be able to leave it to any of them and they can handle it.
Right.
And so that's what I felt like. So it's kind of cool seeing that. Sorry, I went way off topic.
No, you're good.
But yeah, so seeing that and seeing just kind of how quick things can happen with money. So obviously having money helps a lot with business. It just kind of confirmed to me that I made the right decision, and definitely God had a hand in leading me to that guy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And I mean, that goes down to the most important things in your house, right? Or most important things to me as a man is God, family, and then business is next for me. It used to be football, not anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess going back a little on, at that point where you quit your job, when you showed your boss, and then he was like, "Nah, that's for free," and then you quit. Was there ever a point where you wanted to quit, or was there from that point before you actually saw went to a business with your attorney friend.
Yeah.
Was there ever a point where you're like, man, I'm going to give up? Or
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever have that thought?
There was,
Before
but
even like getting back on the horse, or
no,
getting back into business?
there was. Were you asking about quitting after business has started or quitting before?
So when you showed your boss the whatever you created, and then he's like, I'm not going to pay you extra for that. You work for me, and then you quit the next day. So when you quit the next day, were you like, you know what, I'm just going to give up?
No, oh man,
before,
it was
like before you even went into business, like before.
No,
trying
it
to
was
restart.
no, it was pretty instant.
Yeah,
move the transition.
That just kind of like fueled you, maybe.
Yeah. Oh,
Instead
it fueled
of,
me
like,
a lot because to sell that guy,
instead of
like
quitting,
I said, he wasn't somebody that was easy to sell, and so I'm like, if I could sell him, I could sell anybody. So yeah, it really built my confidence going into it. Like, man, this guy's, I'm gonna, and first, I think with business, you always have douters, right?
You kind of, Did that ever creep in, or?
Oh, doubters. My parents were probably the biggest doubter. It's kind of sad, but no, the ones closest to you, they're the ones that are going to, at first, they're gonna be like, they're gonna roll their eyes, like, really?
Again, or are you doing this again?
But if you, as long as you're relentless in what you choose to do, and as long as you are passionate about it, like you have that passion, and it's for you, go for it, right? Like, don't let anybody else's opinion come in and distract, because there's going to be distractions wherever you go, whether it's good or bad. There's going to be distractions, and so learning at a young age, that how they always say, if the older you could tell the younger you something, I would tell myself, like, don't let distractions get to you. I would have told myself that I should have put business first a long time ago, and football should have been second. Sports should have been second. Sports should have been a vehicle to get me to business. And so, but don't let distractions are everywhere, and they come in every way, shape, or form, whether it's your spouse, your parents, your grandma, your best friend. Someone's going to tell you, like, they're going to roll their eyes, and they're not going to match your excitement. Right. And so you have to find, like, self-confidence. And so,
I like that. Well, I just pulled this up that now that you mentioned that, it reminded me of a quote that I saw just on social media, and it just says, "Stop trying to make your parents proud. Make yourself proud. In part, it should make them proud. If it doesn't, you still did the right thing." And so that just kind of, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes your parents, and whether it's parents or siblings or, you know what I mean, just people around you. But
especially with parents, we have to understand, like, our age group, right? We have to understand we are two different age groups where
two different times.
Two different times, right? Like, we are able to see the value in starting a business. Them, like, they don't see, like,
for them it's 9 to 5, 40 years,
and going back to Polynesian, a lot of, and I hope not to offend anybody, I'm gonna tread lightly, but a lot of my wife's family, like, it was like the biggest thing it was like the biggest accomplishment if you got a job at Delta, because the parents got free flight benefits. And I remember my wife, when I was talking about my success, and I was saying, I want this, and she's like, oh, and I'll work part-time for Delta. Like, I'd rather own a plane. Like, let's own a jet. I'm like, don't really worry about you. But she was so adamant about it. But that's just the way we grew up. Right. And so, but it's the different times. And so we have to understand that it's 2020. Literally, the information, I see that quote on Facebook all the time, that the cell phone that we have in our hand is more powerful than what the president of the United States had 10 years ago. And so we have to understand how much access we have to anything. So we could really be anything. Like, growing up, you always hear, like, whatever you want to be, just try hard and work hard and you'll get there. 2020 is really when it's going to happen. Like, this is the time when it can happen, when someone can go from an apartment or, wherever they're at, and become famous or become popular and find a following. You used to have to move to Hollywood. You have to pack up your bags. New York, or LA, You used to have to be where it's happening. Now it's happening everywhere because of the social media influence. And so it's a time where my parents are going to understand our older, and anybody else who hasn't committed to the life of learning, they're not going to understand. They're not going to, give you that confirmation you need. So don't look for confirmation in anything but yourself when it comes to business. Like, just plan on being alone, and the top isn't lonely. And I don't know that from firsthand, but I've talked to people at the top, and it's not lonely. It's definitely not lonely. So, but the beginning is lonely. They should say that. The beginning of the hill to the top is very lonely. So you have to find a lot of worth within yourself. And so,
man, that's preach, brother. That's cool, man.
It's fun, man.
I'm glad that you give a broader perspective to the audience. That there's just more. know, and then especially at the top. And so,
but at the same time, don't forget who you are. If you are somebody that really takes pride in making your parents happy, and and they're in a situation where they need you, don't leave them. Like, don't turn on them. Find a way. It's so entrepreneurship and owning a business, it's juggling. That's all it is. You learn how to juggle things, and the more you practice juggling in real life, the better you'll get. So don't expect to drop the ball, but don't make juggling easier by putting a ball away. Right. Keep them and just keep practicing with the same. And as you add, you'll get better and better. So if you are that person that your parents really depend on you, don't think don't watch this and be like, oh, see ya. Don't care what you say anymore. But then at the same time, don't
let them hold you back.
Don't let them hold you back. Yeah. Because if you are successful in whatever field, the quote that you said,
in turn, is going to help.
It's going to in turn, they are going to be more proud than they were they even knew in their mind how to be proud of you. Because it's something that's going to surprise. This element of surprise is always big. And then if you add their kids in it, so if you had to surprise their kids and money, those are three things that that bring a lot of joy. Your parents are going to be happy.
Yeah, dang, that's crazy. And it's kind of cool that you, in mentioning all this, that you're not even in software, or that you're not even a coder, or you know what I mean? Yeah. But you found a way to in the software industry, or to create the software that.
Yeah, well, and that's what I love about. So every field has so many different ways to make money. You have to find what you're good at. Me, I was really good at going into a business, finding the problems, coming up with solutions, physically me being there. And so I figured if I could make a process like that, software like that, and I could figure that out in my head, how to make it look on a screen, that's all I needed to do. So yeah, I own a software company, and I'm by far the dumbest person in the building, in the room. When we talk in the room, they lose me every time. And so now I'm learning, because I've committed to learning. I have learned a little bit. But if you were to call me and say, hey, can you build me a website? I'd go to the Wix.com and grab a template and be like, yeah, here you go. And so, there's so many different platforms, but you have to find what you're good at. Yeah. And a lot of people, they see what other people are good at, and they leap for it, right? Like, oh.
And they try to imitate that. Or
like I'm sure some people see you like, oh, he's doing a podcast, I'm going to do it. It's like, if you weren't thinking about it before, it's possible, but at the same time, be true to yourself and find something that's going to fast track you, because you're already doing it for free. And so I was doing it for free, right? With these companies, well, obviously I was getting paid. And so, but I was doing it for free because it wasn't part of my job title. And so fixing these problems, I was already doing it for free. And that's what fast tracked me to be like, okay, I can do it for money.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Man.
Yeah.
And then for you already gave a definition of, or what your definition of success is.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself successful?
Success. Oh, geez, that's hard. That's tough, because I do.
Bring it down.
I consider myself successful, but what I find successful. So success, that's what I said earlier about financial freedom being success. My definition of successful is being happy. Okay. And I feel like that's such a veil. Everybody's like, oh, everybody says that. But to get deeper into that, whatever you are doing, as long as three things are taken care of, right, is yourself. You have to put yourself first, because you can't fill up anybody else's cup if you're not full. And so your family, meaning your wife and kids, if you have that relationship, whoever your closest relationship is, and then it goes on to extended family. So if those people in my life are happy with who I am, and I'm able to help when I can, I'm able to be helped when when they're able to help me, to me, that's happiness. So in that aspect, I'd say I'm successful. On the business aspect,
Right.
nowhere near where I want to be. And so, but that's just more of a pride thing, right? I think we all want to get better, and
Always room for improvement.
there's always room for, and it's so cool because it's not like football where you have a small window. Business can go on forever, and my kids can take it on, and their kids can take it. So, yeah, it's just exciting. Like, there's no reason to stop working because you have so many people. They're not depending on you because nobody's depending on you. Right. Your kids are depending on. I never depended on my parents to hand me a business, right? And so nobody's depending on you. But if you look at it that aspect, if you
put it on yourself that way,
yeah, definitely.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I guess for me, just something that I wanted to touch on, or I don't know if you want to speak on this, but
yeah,
in these meetings that you go in, I'm sure you pitch a lot of, did you go into like once you created this product, this software, did you go pitching it to other people or pitching it to a lot of companies, or how did that work for you?
Yeah. And
then in those meetings, did they when they saw the name Austin Childs, and then when you walked in, was there like like just
are you in the right room?
Yeah. And then also, I guess let's go with that for now, then I'll ask the second part of that.
Yeah, question. Let's roll with that. Yeah, every level there was that surprise, like, you, like, who? Either whether they were being introduced, like, hey, Austin Childs, and they knew who I was. Even people that knew who I was and were close to me, they said, Austin Childs has something that I think can really help this place. Like, what do you mean? He created a software. Who? Like, who are we talking about? And luckily, I was the person introducing me. He was almost blind to it, and so he told me. I'm like, he probably shouldn't have told me. But no, I'm glad he did because, every level. So even from the level, investors were probably the first, right? Investors were like, wait, it's you? Yeah, they kind of looked at me, and one of them made a football joke. Like, like, aren't you supposed to be playing football? Or did you get your degree from a 4-year college from football? It's like, but every level, it was an element of surprise, but it was a surprise I am more than willing to take on, right? And honestly, it makes me proud that everybody it's a double-edged sword, right? It makes me proud because the people before me, my people, our people, Polynesian people, they've put in work, real work on the football field. So for, back in 1945, his name's Al. I don't know his last name, but he was the first NFL player, right? So he probably got the question, why aren't you playing in the NFL, right? So he got the question, why aren't you in the NFL? And because of all the people that put in work, now we're getting the question, are you in the NFL or what? Do you play football? Everybody just assumes. Yeah. And so I appreciate that aspect of the legacy that our culture has. We're definitely known for football. And so I welcome it because it's like now it's like I'm the Al in the first one, right? And so the more times I'm asked the question or given that, you can call it whatever you want to call it, right? You can call it a little bit of biased or prejudiceness. Right. Like, really? You doing software? I welcome it. Because the more times I answer it and the more times I take it, it creates less times that my kids will have to answer it. Exactly. Right? So I love it because our age group, I'd say 10 years younger, 10 years older than me, we have the opportunity to really push business. And so that our grandkids and our kids won't have to have like, oh, it's you. They'll be like, oh, why aren't you in there? Yeah. And so... No. So at the same time, it is frustrating, but I go in, and I think any parent can relate to me in this. Anybody, even with a younger sibling, if you can do something to make it easier for them, you take it like a champ, right? You take it on the chin. And so, but I do see where a lot of people, they get discouraged by that. Right. And they lose confidence. I've seen minorities in a room before. I've been in a room. Most of the rooms I'm in is majority Balangi. And I've seen people lose confidence because of certain comments made. And so it's nice to be there for each other as a minority, but at the same time, it's something everybody has to go through, right? And so it'd be the same way with a Palangi person going to Samoa and trying to start a business. There's going to be one awkward time for them in a room where they're treated a little different because they're the minority. So, yeah.
Can you speak on some experiences maybe of what some of those comments were?
Yeah.
Maybe, or like some of those, you know, like people that look down.
Yeah.
Or whether they say it or not, you know, but you can
it was
kind of
more
feel
of a
their
demeanor,
yeah.
right? So it was kind of like the respect they would give to everybody in the room. And then except like, okay, what do you got? You know what I mean? Or what got me going was you really do know what you're talking about. I hate when people say that, and they say it, and I try to assume that they just said it blindly. I try to assume that there was no intent. That's the only way I can get past it, is to assume that they just were being honest, right? And so, and they would say it to other Palangi person. I have to assume that, right? Because it just makes me mad. And so, but yeah, it was kind of like, you know, the typical, like, what did you expect? Right. And so, yeah, it was more demeanor, or it was more of the comment after you spoke, like, oh, and they like when you sit down, they're like, yeah, I'm like, oh, man.
But before that, they wouldn't even give you the time.
Yeah, before that, yeah.
Who's this guy? What did he do to, you know?
Yeah. And it was fun because a lot of times, like, I walked into a meeting and the guy said, hey, is this, and the guy interrupted me and he was like, hey, can you come back after our meeting? And I was like, yeah. And it was a meeting for my software. And so, and
he didn't know that.
Yeah, but since I was used to it by that time, and this was about maybe a month ago. Wow. I was used to it by now, but it was just this guy that never met me, didn't know who I was. He knew he was there. So he was one of the decision makers for the software company. And so I played along with it. And I'm like, oh, sorry, can I wait right here? And so I waited right outside, and it was a glass room. And so he saw me wait out there, and I'm just waiting. And then as soon as the CEO of the company, as soon as he walked in, he like, what are you doing out there? Like, he called me in. And I was like, oh, sorry. I'm like, I think that
he told me to wait.
He told me to wait outside because you guys had an important meeting. And I love it because I think the CEO, growing up in Utah, he knows Polly's, loves Polly's, big into rugby too. He kind of I feel like he like read my mind. And he said, you are the meeting. And I said, cool. I'm like, you know, you sit down, and then the guy, I had to sit next to the guy. And so when they finally
that must have been awkward, huh?
Yeah. And so when they finally said, all right, Austin, we're going to give you the room. We're going to give you about 10 to 15 minutes. Take as long as you want, though. And just come up and explain what you're going to do for us. And because the decision's already been made, right? So the decision's already been made. It's not like I was pitching to him. He was just making the decision on how it's going to play out. Yeah. And so the decision's already been made. They're going with me. And so it was so nice. Like, I kind of like patted the table and I just looked at him, and then I walked up. You know, I wanted to say something rude, but that moment right there, I think that was big enough for me. And so, yeah, but that's kind of the things you get. Like, yeah. It's almost like, oh, you can clean the room after. It's so bad. Right. It's so bad.
They just assume.
Yeah. But again, it was something that I'm so willing to take it, because I'd rather go through that than my kid having to go through that. So, but hopefully by the time my kid's at the age where he can step into the room and it's normal. Polynesians are known for being in the room. I hope it's like that. It's not like our kids don't have to go through that. And so, and that's for any minority, right? You know, any minority. So,
man, I just with that answer, I just hope you guys felt the passion with that, man. That's, you know, that's something that's huge for our Polynesian community. That, you know, this needs to be normalized. You know, like a normal occurrence for us to be in the room. And so, yeah,
because we have so much to offer the room, right? I mean, you kind of touched on a little bit. We have so much to offer the room, but are we gonna do the necessary steps to get there? Are we? And it's hard. Like, people say, oh, if you work hard, you'll get there. No, it's not true. Like, you have to have, you know, favor. You have to have definitely, like, you have to be close to, I always say God. I'm big with God. You have to be close to God because you need God's favor to lead you in the right direction.
Agreed.
Right. You also need a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of luck on finding the right people. And then you need to be, then the work comes in. So the work is the third thing that comes in. You have to have a platform to show your work. And so are we going to go out of our comfort zone rather than, are we going to stick to the people we've known forever growing up? Are we going to hang out with them only and be a closed group?
Right.
Or are we going to expand ourselves and start searching for success, right? Searching for the kind of like college, right? Like if my kid ever comes to me and says, I want to go to college, all I'm going to tell him is like, I hope you meet somebody that you guys start. So like, I hope you drop out because you meet the right people. And I'm not against college. I think college college is needed. Like if you're going to be a doctor,
there are certain professions
where you have to go to college. But if you're going into business, I hate working with people that have business degrees because they try to throw books on me. And I'm just like, I almost want to say like, where's your resume? Like, where's your success? Yeah. Like, okay, I see your degree, but what have you done? Yeah. I never do, but I want to every time. Especially BYU. Especially like,
I have a business degree.
Yeah, well, that's all I work with, right? Because there's a lot of BYU graduates, but yeah, they just have a business, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like I think if you get into business and you start failing, and if you start putting yourself in bad situations, school might be the best route for you, but it should never be your first route. Because again,
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, it's 2020.
Yeah,
you need to. Yeah.
Everything you have is right.
Everything is on your phone. Like, add a laptop, you times it by 10. I mean, there's so many different things that you can find out. And plus it's like you need to get used to talking to people. So you need to find people and talk to them. You need to seek. It's not just on your phone too. It's being out of your shell when it comes to starting a conversation with the guy that gets out of the Bentley, like, at Macy's.
Yeah.
Like, starting a conversation, finding out, asking a couple questions, asking purposeful questions where you're like, hey, I really just want to know, how to get there, how to do this, what did you do to do this, and so
Dang, that's awesome. And so, just going back and just gonna ask the second part of that question, because I asked you about walking into a room with the name Austin Childs and a Polynesian walks in.
Yeah.
What about when you walk into a room with Polynesians with the name Austin Childs? Like going on the flip side of that, is there that same disconnect?
It's exactly the same.
How can you talk about that?
It's almost a pity, right? Like that's what they get. Like they're like, "What's your name?" And they're like, "Oh, Childs." And then I instantly follow that with, "I was adopted by a Palangi family." And then usually not younger. I think our age group, it's more like, "Oh, cool." But the older ones are like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I know, like, but at the same time, never would disrespect them. But yeah, it does bug me. But it's the same thing. The more times and the more people I meet that I answer that question, the more likeliness that my kids won't have to answer it. So something I'm willing to keep doing. And yeah. But the more you get out there, the more friendly you are, because all people need is common ground. Right. And so, but that's usually the first question, right? Like, where are you from?
Yeah. Instantly making that connection.
Yeah. How's your dad? That's usually the same, and which is fine.
Yeah.
And so I'll answer it, but I just don't have the answer you might want. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now that, with the two perspectives that you have, coming from maybe the Palangi perspective, what are some things that we as Polynesians maybe need to unlearn? What are some things that we could probably get better at?
Yeah. Oh, geez.
I mean, whether it's coming from a Palangi one or just your personal experience, but or just you yourself. But what do you feel like we as a culture, as a people, maybe need to unlearn?
I think it's pretty basic, but it's real.
Yeah.
It's stepping out of your comfort zone, going away from, parents have such an influence on people's lives into their, because, Palangi parents, it's like, and I say this, it's more of a jokingly way, but it's kind of true. But it is true.
With the
but
seed
like
of truth.
as soon as you turn 18, it's like see you later, right? Like you should be either going to college or you should be moving out. With polys, it's almost like, especially with like their daughters, right? It's like
It's hard to let them know.
like, oh no, you're moving from my house and you're going to your brother's house, and you know what I mean. And then if you get married, maybe you can move out. Like, you know what I mean? It's just my wife's the same way. She's like, oh no, like they can just live with, like you have to go to college. Like my son, 6 years old, you have to go to college close to home so you can stay. I'm like, dude, get him out of here. And so I think that understanding, I guess, that the world, understanding it's not really for Polynesians, it's everybody. Anybody who's in a situation where they feel like they want more, right? It's the world has endless opportunities. It's just how much we want to take from it. And so stepping out of your comfort zone to take from it, it's free for the taking, right? And it's low-hanging fruit that we can all go grab. And so fear, I think with the Polynesian culture, we're such a loving culture, right? But with love, every time there's always the opposite, right? So with love, there's so much hate, right? Like, oh man, I go drink kava with some guys, and we talk about the guy that posted an emotional video that meant a lot to him on Instagram or something. He posted a video about, experience. And so for him, it's a huge step forward.
Right.
Because he's trying
Putting
to
yourself
share.
out there.
Yeah. And then just to have his best friends knock him down, right? And I think all polys, we know how we are. And so the hate that we get back and because again, we haven't had, besides The Rock, right? Like if you look at The Rock and then certain NFL players, they're very vocal. But a lot of times The Rock, he's by far the most successful Polynesian, right? Exactly. But he's probably the most like corny when it comes to like people's opinion. They're like, oh, he's corny, right? Or he doesn't do this right. Like I remember the movie that he came out with where he represented Samoa.
Yeah.
What is it called? Hobbs and Shaw. Hobbs and Shaw.
From Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah. So many people were hating on him, and I'm like,
his chihu.
Yeah, they were like hating on it, and I'm like, man, are you representing your culture? Yeah, like what have you done? And I didn't say that, but that's in my head. Yeah, in my head, I'm like, man, you don't even know how to speak Samoan. Like, how you gonna make fun of his? And so, yeah, little things like that. We have the biggest love culture by far.
For sure.
We definitely know how to love, but then it also very easy for hate. And so I think that if we could unlearn how to hate, and I see it on posts all the time from friends where they're like, oh, I want everybody to succeed. But then it's almost like we're competitive people, right? We're jealous. People don't like to talk about it.
Right.
But a lot of times if you're hating on somebody, it's because you're jealous of them or you don't recognize what they're doing. So if anything, the only downfall to that situation of someone doing what they're trying to do and then someone hating on them, it's always the hate person that shows their true colors. And I wish that would stop because, man, it holds so much. Holds us back, yeah. Holds us back so much. But I've been guilty of it. Like I remember, even in sports, when you do like the most simple. I remember this guy. He got this tackle, or he got this sack, and he did this little dance, and he's been doing it since like forever, right? But as soon as we went to the all poly camp, all the polys made fun of him. Right. And so we stopped, and I'm just like, in high school, I was like, I probably would have done the same thing. But now as an adult, I'm just like, dude, who cares what other people think? Like, stop caring what other people think. So yeah, polys can take that. But it's me too. Like when I say poly, I'm not talking like, but definitely. And then be willing to learn that money isn't meant to be spent. Right? Money is a tool to get more things. And so, yeah, a lot of the bad habits I have with money is from the poly side of me, right? Of like, oh, the paycheck to paycheck thing. Not understanding savings, not understanding stocks, not understanding investments. And so that is something that, and then Palangi people, it's weird. I wasn't taught by my Palangi parents, but if I look at them, my dad has stocks in his company. They have a second home that they could rent out if they needed to, if times got tough. they could rent out their second home.
Dang.
And so things like that. But they never taught me. It's just almost like that was like, you should know that.
Right.
Like, right? Like, yeah, well,
You see me doing it, so you should know it.
Yeah. And so that's what they saw their parents do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And so really adapting to the times and adapting to not living that, I say it, broke life. I don't mean it like anybody's broke, but it is a broke lifestyle. And I can say that confidently because I've lived it. I've lived it. I've lived that.
Been part of it,
when somebody, one of the biggest lessons I got, I think it was a Monday, the Monday of payday. Payday was Friday.
Right.
And this old Palangi dude, me and him got really close. And he asked, hey, you want to go to lunch? And I said, yeah, can we go Friday? And he's like, yeah. He's like, is there a special? He was so confused. He was one of those
he's like,
innocent.
Why Friday, not today?
Yeah. He's like, you can't go today? I'm like, no, I can't go today. And he's like, he looked at me like it was the most sincere. No, like, he was like really intrigued. Like, why can't? And I'm like, oh, so I don't get paid. And he was just like, that is a bad way to live. And I was mad. I was like, what?
You don't know me.
Yeah, you don't know my problem. Yeah, I was mad. I was so. But then I went home. Luckily, I respected him quite a bit. And I told my mom, that really is the worst way to live. Is I'm like, he's like telling me, he's like, so somebody said I'm gonna kill you unless you give me $20. You'd have
to Friday.
Yeah, he's like, when he broke it down like that, I was like, geez, yeah. And he was like, just because you have a job, that doesn't mean you have to live just over broke. And I was like, okay. He's like, that's what job stands for. He's like, you got to beat just over broke. And he's like, you got to beat the system somehow. He's like, you got to save your money, man. And so, yeah, huge lesson for me, very humbling, right? Like, you have to take that from somebody. Like, you don't know me, but
I feel like that's what we as a people have to learn, financial literacy.
Yeah.
Just
learning. Money's a tool, and money can, whether you're into entrepreneurship or not, whether you want to be your own business, all it takes is a little bit of money to start bringing income.
Yeah.
Right? Residual income, whether it's from stocks, whether but I recommend anybody, even if you don't even want to get into business and you think business entrepreneurs is a whole joke, even if you have a really good job, I would definitely recommend looking into another source of income. Yeah. Because the more sources, it's so nice. Once you get like 7 sources of income, you're like,
that's like supposed to be a millionaire, right?
Yeah. It's almost like, man, that I didn't, you don't, paydays every day.
Yeah.
And you don't know when it's coming, and it just comes, and you're just like, oh, cool. And so, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it's cool that, for you to speak on that, because coming from the broke lifestyle now being able to be comfortable in your the lifestyle that you have now, like you're able to speak on that.
And it's funny because with my parents, they really so they didn't find it, it's like they didn't struggle, right? And so everything I grew up with, like when I needed new cleats, I got new cleats. When I wanted new shoes, I got new shoes. I was the only child,
right?
So it's like whatever I wanted, I got. And so then having a kid, understanding, and I'm like, I asked my parents, like, how'd you do it? They're like, how'd you do what? How'd you afford it? And they're looking at me like, are you struggling? Like, and they kind of looked at me, are you struggling? I'm like, yeah, I'm struggling. And so, but yeah, just that different, like, it's not about, like, you get money you have to use it correctly.
Yeah.
And so they always say save money. I'm still not big into saving money, but I am about, if I get money, I make sure all of it goes somewhere to make me more money.
Right.
And so that's really, as long as I know that I have more money coming in than I have going out, then I'm good.
And that's the basics of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
of being,
And so
money.
Find your strength with money, find your strength, and learn at an early age, and teach your kids that, money is not that important in life. It really isn't. You have to have it. Obviously, God made it a money thing, a worldly, money that is of, the world is of money, but it's not that important if you have a lot, when I say a lot, I mean, how to use what you have. Right. It's not that important if you know how to use it.
Dang, that's awesome. It just reminds me of the quote, because we know better, we got to do better,
Yeah.
And there's a better way of living than the way that we're living,
Everywhere.
Everyone is living at this moment, and so to get to that level, because we know better, our generation at least, in the Polynesian side and on the Polynesian side,
Yep.
we can be better or do better, because of that.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, man, that's some awesome conversation. Right
Yeah,
there.
no,
A
I
lot of stuff
appreciate
that
it,
I've
man.
learned. And then I'm sure because I've been inspired by this, I'm sure other people will be as well. And, just look at yourself, you know what I mean? Looking at you like that, that could be me. Or, for whoever's listening,
Yeah.
that could just be, you know what I mean? Somebody that's more accessible or within reach because
Oh yeah.
you're doing it. And because you said, with what you mentioned, that the more that you take for us Polynesians, the less that others, coming along the way have to do
Oh yeah.
or have to take it.
Yeah.
So I'm just
And that's the other
grateful.
thing is we have to share, right? So sharing is
Don't be
caring.
like hoarders.
Don't be like,
like,
don't be hoarders.
Don't want to with the energy or what is it called, like the knowledge that we have. Just be like, we need to share it.
Yeah, I love getting Facebook messages from people that, hey, I want to go to Saab. Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I guess just to end this, I have a few questions, just some rapid fire questions.
Yeah, let's go.
So the first thing that comes to your mind, we'll go ahead and share that with us, and then and this would just be to end this. But what takes up too much of your time?
Sleep and eating.
What do you wish you knew more about?
That's a good one. Wish I knew more about, let's say, business. Yeah, let's keep it simple.
Yeah.
Business.
What or who inspires you?
Elon Musk. Very weird. Elon Musk. Yeah. Tesla owner.
Yeah. What are some things you had to unlearn?
Procrastination. I have to unlearn that.
Right. What's your favorite book?
Probably Atomic Habits.
Nice. If you could spend a day with someone dead or alive to pick their brains, who would it be?
Ooh.
Past, present, or future?
Past, present, or future. Jeez.
Just sit down and just be like, hey.
Well, I mean, this is going to sound selfish, right? But just to pick their brain, I would sit down with the dead me. Yeah. If I wanted to really be successful in my life, I would sit down with the passed away me.
Is that because you know you're going to be successful?
No, it's just because it's almost like a cheat code, right? It's like a cheat,
the life that you live in?
Yeah, so obviously, that wouldn't be
I'm
my
just
answer.
asking because, man, I've never heard the answer before.
Yeah.
But that's so intriguing.
Yeah,
that's so...
because I'd want to know
cool.
what's coming. So it's like I said, it's selfish. But if it was strictly for information, not for time.
Cool.
Obviously, time would be somebody else. Like just to spend time with, it would be somebody passed on that was closer to me. But just for strict information, I'd want to talk to the dead me. Yeah.
Really? I like that answer. That's so cool. What's special about the place you grew up?
Man, I'd say it was my parents, really, my family.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's really special to me about like the place I grew up. Yeah.
What have you only recently formed an opinion about?
A better opinion. The racism that's going on.
Yeah.
Being woke to the racism that's going on. And that would be.
What's the luckiest thing that's happened to you?
Luckiest, my wife, by far. Luckiest.
Good answer.
Yeah. Yep.
What song will guarantee to make you dance?
Disney songs, because I'm watching
With
my
your
2-year-old.
kids, yeah.
Oh man, those songs will get me singing and dance. My wife always gets it on social media too. Makes me mad. Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to in the next 10 years?
My wife and kids, by far, seeing both of them grow.
What could you give a 40-minute presentation on with no preparation?
No preparation. Definitely being a dad.
Yeah. And what hobby would you get into if time and money weren't an issue?
Time and money weren't an issue. I would want flying.
Traveling?
Well, no, flying.
What do you mean? Oh,
being
learning
a pilot,
to fly?
Learning to fly.
Dang,
Without a certification. If money were an issue, I'd buy a plane and just teach myself. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when people come to you for help, what do they usually need help with?
Business advice, I would say.
Yeah. What is something you think everyone should do at least once in their life?
That's a good one. Ooh. Can you ask it one more time?
What do you think? What is something you think someone should do at least once in their life?
Dang it. I was hoping something would come. Definitely do something way out of your comfort zone. That sounds so original. Yeah.
Which of your scars has the best story behind it?
Scars. Oh, geez. Scars. Probably this one. Right there.
What happened?
It got stabbed.
Oh,
Yeah. Funny story. It's a cool story, right?
Let's hear it.
It's not cool. Yeah, it's like a little 7th grade fight, and a little Mexican grabbed a knife and just pulled it out and got me.
At school?
Yeah. So yeah.
Crazy.
Yep. It was and it was one that was I actually called it was this girl's mom. She actually like glued it back together.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a little knife. But yeah, like by far
that's still a knife to school?
Yeah,
Somebody bringing a knife
that's
to
like
school
the coolest. That's probably there's no really cool story. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That by far is probably got to be the coolest story.
What helps you live in the moment?
My wife, by far. I'm all about the future. My wife is definitely the one who puts me in check.
And then last question, if you could get back to your village, how or what would you do?
I would learn more. For me, in my situation, I would go back and learn where I came from. I can't really say what I do to help them, but I think me creating time and giving time for my kids and my family, my wife, to go back and learn where I came from and learn the whole different lifestyle. I think that it would be obviously self-rewarding, but if everything plays out with business, it would obviously put me in a situation that could help out with whatever. Yeah. So me, going back and really making the time for that to happen. That's something I really want to do.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for, sharing just the knowledge that you have, sharing your experiences.
Yeah.
And, just for me,
no,
I'm just grateful that, I'm inspired, and I'm sure others will be as well.
No, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Village Made podcast. Stay safe, stay blessed. And remember, it takes a village to raise a child.